Hello students and welcome to your Week 8 Online Lab Collision Theory How-To video. This video is optional, but it will walk you through what to expect, what I'm looking for, and also how to use the gizmo online. Now you'll see on the screen I do have the online lab open. It does give you directions on how to open the gizmo. I already went through these steps, but just make sure you log in and access the proper gizmo before you get started. This assignment has 3 parts to it. And it's mostly just to help you get started and then knowing what your setup is, how to apply that for your experiment. So part 1 is going to be setting up constant values. And it's important that you know the limits to the lab itself before you set these. And so you'd have to go into the collision theory gizmo and move some of the sliders around to see exactly what the max number is, what the minimum number is, just so you get a feel for that. And then once you know that, you're going to set your values here. And these are going to be our constant values, meaning whenever you're changing whatever independent variable you're changing in part 2, that the other ones will be matching these values. So that's the point behind that. So if I went to my gizmo and I open that up, now you'll see on this I have my controls, my simulation, some information. These are the things that I want you to move around, just so you can kind of get an idea what the max and minimum are. So reactant concentration max is 2, minimum is 0.1. So you can choose a number in between those. You can choose a max or a minimum. It's up to you. The only thing I ask is if you have a sibling or a friend in the course, you change different values. And what I mean by that is if you have a constant reactant concentration that you picked for part 1 of 1.5, I don't want the sibling or friend to have 1.4. So it should be on a different extreme. So if you pick 1.5, then your sibling or your friend should really be somewhere like 0.5 or 0.6, something like that. Catalyst concentration has the same slider. You'll just notice that this is 0, so that means there's just no catalyst there. You have a minimum and maximum. Those are the only 2 options for surface area. So if you pick minimum and you have a sibling or a friend, they would pick maximum. So those are the 2 opposite pieces. Then you have temperature. And then if you want to, the simulation speed usually is set up somewhere around here. It just makes it go a little faster instead of you having to sit there and wait. So if you really wanted to, you could put that all the way to the right. And that'll make the simulation actually go faster time-wise. So that's an option to you. This isn't required for the lab, but it's just something to help save you time if you want to. So what you do is pick out your constant values. When you know exactly what values you want to be constant, you're going to stick them here so I know. And once you have those, you'll go down to part 2. So part 2 is going to be the actual experiment piece. And the first thing you're going to do is a standard setup. And that's just going to be where all of your values right here are set up in your gizmo. And you're going to click play. So let's say I have my values. I click play. And you'll notice my molecule's starting to move around and nothing super exciting is happening. But I do have to let it run its course. There you go. You had something happen. And you just have to continue to wait. That's going to be your standard because that's where all your constant values are set. Once this goes to completion or it ends, and it will tell you when it ends, eventually you're going to click on these other tabs. So this is showing you what happens when the reaction actually takes place. That's your animation. You have your table of data and you have your graph that's moving as the reaction occurs. Now, what I want you to do is eventually get to a point where you have a completed reaction, and if it's taking a long time, you can scroll down and look farther down just by clicking and dragging. Another option is to zoom out, which is what you will do when it comes time to take a screenshot of your reaction. So ultimately what you're going to do is once this is done or it runs to completion or it stops, so let's say it's done now, I'm going to take a screenshot of this and the easiest part, in my opinion, is clicking on this camera towards the top right. And then it pulls up the graph for you, and all you have to do is right click, copy image, go back to your lab, click here, and paste your screenshot, and then just resize it. Whoops. There we go. So now I resized my screenshot, and I have my standard setup done. Now I'm just going to get rid of that because we won't need it for my overall document. And once you have your standard table pasted into your table, you're going to go down to these 4 options, and you're going to do these 4 options in the lab. Now, if I wanted to do reactant concentration, I would go back, I would reset, go back to your controls, and the only thing I'd be changing is my reactant concentration. So my catalyst, my surface area, and my temperature should match my part 1 values that I picked earlier. The only thing I'm changing is my reactant concentration. And you're going to want to change this more to a significant degree. So if you, let's say, had 1.5 for your constant, you're going to want to move it towards like 0.9 or 0.8. The only thing I will be looking out for is if you have a sibling and your sibling, let's say, wrote 0.6 and you wrote 1.5, your sibling cannot go to 1.5 and swap tables, okay? The goal is to get different data tables. So make sure that none of your values, whether it's the original values or the ones you change it to, match your sibling or your friend's values. That's going to be something that I will look for. So once this is all set up and you change your values, you'll hit play and you'll let it run through like it did before. When it's done, you'll go to your graph, you'll copy that graph. If you can't see it all, zoom out like that. Click on the camera, copy your image, put it into the appropriate table square. And then you'll do the same for the other 3 pieces. Once that's done, you're going to use your graph to answer these questions. And that's the 3rd part of your lab. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions for me or something's not working, make sure you reach out. Otherwise, this should go smoothly. Good luck. And again, let me know if you have questions.